The prisoner was escaping. He pulled a thin string from between his teeth, the string growing longer and longer, until he retrieved a small pouch from his stomach. Inside were a small tube of gasoline and a match. Meanwhile, two solitary confinement prisoners pulled small iron nails from their palms, using them to easily pick the locks on their handcuffs. In the cage, Golson and Joe exchanged a glance. A silent signal passed between them. Joe immediately took action, pouring gasoline on a nearby prisoner, and throwing a lit match at him. Flames instantly erupted, and the prisoner's screams attracted the guards. To prevent the fire from spreading, the guards had to remove Joe's shackles. In the chaos, Joe took the keys from a guard's belt, pulled a lever, and opened the prison cage. On the other side, Golson rushed into the cockpit amid the confusion, subdued the armed co-pilot, and killed him in the struggle. He threatened the pilot to send a false message to the control center, claiming everything was normal. Now, he was the only one armed, in complete control of the situation.
Welcome to Con Air.
This was an airborne prison used to transfer inmates, housing America's most dangerous criminals. The leader, Golson, was highly intelligent, a classic sociopath. At 39, he had already served 25 years, killed 11 prisoners, and successfully escaped twice. But among these desperados was an extremely unlucky man, Cage. His sentence was about to end, and he should have been released at the transfer point. But he was dragged into this mid-air hijacking. Golson planned to exchange a group of prisoners at the transfer airport, and Cage was on the list to disembark. Among the new prisoners boarding was the son of a Colombian drug lord. Golson had long made a deal with the drug lord, deliver his son to a specified location, in exchange for a huge sum of money and an escape plane. But just before landing, Cage chose to stay, only because his best prison friend was still on the plane. He wanted to take his friend with him. The plane landed as planned at the transfer station. With the waiting police completely unaware, Golson put on a uniform, placed a hood over a guard's head, and disguised him as a prisoner. The new prisoners were quietly brought on board. No one expected that among the exchanged prisoners lurked a true monster. His name alone was enough to terrify these vicious criminals. He was a serial killer who had murdered 37 people. Yet after boarding the plane, he was released. The guard carefully removed his hood, and the butcher immediately saw through the guard's disguise. By then, the airport security realized the prisoners exiting the plane were actually guards, and hurriedly turned to chase, but it was too late. Soon, the police tracked the plane's GPS, and sent military helicopters intending to shoot it down. But the criminals were clever. They had already removed the GPS during the prisoner exchange, and attached it to a sightseeing plane. Cage, one of the few good-natured prisoners, had tried to use the plane's recording equipment to signal the guards, but unfortunately failed. So he had to remain on the plane, pretending to be one of the inmates, gathering intel on their plans, and waiting for another opportunity. The plane's instrument panel showed the landing gear was stuck. The speed couldn't increase, so a prisoner ordered Cage to go down and check. There, they discovered a body. It was Joe, who hadn't made it back on board in time. He had clung to the retracting landing gear, and was crushed to death. Cage saw an opportunity. While the prisoner wasn't looking, he wrote the agent's name and Golson's intended destination on the body, and dropped it from the plane. When the agent received the message, he realized the body's drop location was completely opposite to the helicopter's tracking direction.